Next person we're going to talk to is Scott Smith, who was a corporal with the U.S. Army, served from 1989 to 1992. Some listeners to WBEV and WXRO, they recognize Scott from the Angel Walk. That's in association with the Radiothon.
Hi, John. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Great to have you here this afternoon, Scott.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about your service. First of all, you enlisted or in 1989?
Yeah, I enlisted. It was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing, actually. I had really no plans on joining. I enlisted when I was 22. And at the time, most guys were going in at high school, or if they're going in after college, they're going in through ROTC or going to officer candidate school. And graduated from school and moved back home, which was Wapaka, and worked for a bit and just was a little frustrated with where things were going after college, and had a buddy that had gone to ROTC in Oshkosh, at UW Oshkosh, and was, we were actually out at a local drinking establishment in Wapaka one night, and I was talking about how frustrated I was with just, wasn't quite working out like I wanted it to after college, and he said, if you join, you can come out to Fort Ord where I'm going to be, and what the heck, give it a try. And at first I kind of blew it off, but after a couple more beers and thinking about it, it was literally within about 2 weeks I'd signed up, and within a couple of months I was off to Fort Ord. And where I ended up, I really had no clue other than my buddy had talked me into going, but the unit I ended up with was something called the 7th Infantry Division, Rapid Deployment Force, that was responsible for South America, Colombia at the time. And that was
Colombian drug smuggler.
Yeah, and so that was, in fact, Tom Clancy wrote a Clear and Present Dangers, a little bit about it.
That's about?
Yeah, it's actually our unit. Yeah,
Really?
The 17th Infantry was the unit he picked to base that on.
Oh my goodness.
And we ended up in, actually within the first year, we went through Hurricane Hugo, and that was training for Panama, although we didn't know it. We went to Fort Bragg and went through a block of training and ran into Hurricane Hugo hit, and went back to Fort Ord in time for the earthquake that hit San Francisco right at the start of the. And so we did a little guard duty up in San Francisco during that, and then we knew that we had some scheduled training at Fort Sherman in Panama at the Jungle Operations Training Center in December of '89, and got there and almost immediately ended up getting what's called locked down. We couldn't go anywhere or do anything. And we heard rumors, but we kind of blacked out to what was going on in the outside world and didn't realize what was coming up at the end of the month, and that was the Panama invasion.
Were you in on Panama?
Yeah, we were there from the get-go.
For Noriega.
Yep.
To get Noriega out.
Yep.
Did you parachute then? Or?
Aerosol. Yeah, we were in Aerosol.
Aerosol came in on the Hueys, basically.
Yeah, Blackhawks. Yeah.
On the Blackhawks by then.
Yeah, Blackhawks.
Combat there?
Yeah, we all got CIBs for that.
CIB.
Combat Infantry Badge.
Okay.
Yeah. My unit itself never got any direct firefight. There was a lot of that after the first couple of days. Most of that happened in Panama City with the 82nd and the Rangers over there. We actually ended up at didn't know where we were going. It's actually a place called Gatun, where there was they sent us out to different units, went to different areas where the police or government installations were, and surrounded them, and more or less gave them an ultimatum to come out or not. And in our case, it took several hundred rounds into the walls around the building, and then that was the end of that.
Did you use sound also?
We did. I know they did that, a lot of that, the psychological warfare stuff. We didn't have any of that fun stuff over by us. We just
What did they play? Real loud rock and roll?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't make any difference, but it was so loud,
Yeah.
the beat so heavy.
Yeah, I know they did a lot of that over in Panama City when they finally had them.
Well, the type of rock and roll can make a difference, Bob.
Exactly.
Now, you were in a rapid deployment force. Now, that's not your whole division. That's rapid deployment.
That was the whole all the combat arms. Yeah.
And what was your job?
I was called Grunt. I was Bravo.
What did you carry?
Well, I was initially assigned to our mortar, 60 millimeter mortar squad that was attached to our company. Company had 90 guys, and it was 6 of us that operated a little weapon system, a small mortar that would support the rest of it. But when we got to Panama, because of the canopy in the jungle, they took our mortar tube away and handed us all squad automatic weapons, machine guns, basically. So that's kind of the difference. The first difference I noticed between training and reality was that if we'd gone through back in base for that, we'd have gone through a couple of weeks of training on how to operate the gun and all that. But here was basically here. Took this, gave you that. Here, this is where the bullet goes. And that was that.
Did you ever meet anybody from the Special Forces group?
We ran into some Special Forces guys here and there, but it's getting to know who they were, what they were doing. I recall, actually, I have real vividly, we were out during the daytime moving from point A to point B in the jungle, and it was actually in the Fort Sherman area, so we weren't too far off from the Moonies, but ran into a guy that was by himself, which we thought was odd in and of itself. And he turned out to be a guy attached to a Special Forces unit.
I got the story of a Beaver Dam man that's down in that front of the house.
He had GPS, which for us was back in
Boy, that
that was a big deal.
Yeah,
it was a big, huge thing he had. That was, and he was toting that GPS unit around.
And now we carry it around in our phones.
Yeah, it's no big deal anymore. But then it was pretty cool. There's this Special Forces guy with a GPS unit operating on his own.
So Panama, did you say Colombia too? Were you in Colombia at all?
No, we never got that far south. Thank goodness. That was always the rumor that we were going to end up in Colombia, but it never happened.
What kind of special training did you get to be rapid deployment?
It really wasn't any more special training than the normal infantry training, just in that we had to more or less be on call all the time. We went through different cycles of being on call when we were back on base, which took a lot of the fun out of being in California because we could never go very far. Had to hang around and be able to get back and get suited up and ready to go.
When somebody talks to me about being in the infantry, I have a recollection of being at Camp McCoy up in Sparta. They put on an exhibition one time. I happened to work at the radio station in Toma, and they invited us over to this exhibition. And they showed how you take a machine gun position.
Okay.
The helicopter came in, and basically a bunch of people ran up this hill right at that machine gun.
Okay.
Or a couple of them did anyway, and then maybe some others went around. But I was amazed at, watching the movies on TV. That just didn't happen. I mean, you're in real life danger in the infantry. I mean, you have to do things that are probably going to get you hurt or killed. Is that true?
Yeah, well, yes, especially for assault kind of assaults, yeah. There's casualties in assaults, and that's,
Was I incorrect in my description of this assault?
I suppose that'd be one way of doing it. We've always hoped for some close air support that could soften up things before we actually had to. But yeah, I mean, we were in a position where we were doing building entries that we really hadn't trained for at all before we got there, and we more or less knew that the first couple of guys through the door on a building, it isn't sort of like a police or a SWAT operation where you try to decrease the threat. It was everything we went into. You didn't sit and negotiate or do other things. It was throw a grenade through the door and go.
Did you work out of Fort Gulick?
Nope, it was Sherman the whole time. Yeah, it was Fort Sherman, old Fort Sherman with vampire bats and the whole bit. That was actually the whole other part of that. We weren't worried so much about the enemy as we were about the jungle in and of itself. The casualties from my battalion came from helicopter crashes that were actually weather related. Lost almost 30 guys from our battalion to helicopters went down going to an air assault mission, and just jungle injuries. The jungle terrain, I had no idea how hilly and it is really mountainous area, and tromping through that jungle with 80 pounds of stuff. I mean, I think we were in much greater danger just moving from point A to point B than we were from any kind of combat operation.
How long were you in Panama?
We were there for Just Cause. We stayed from December when it began, and we were there till April, and then we went back again that August. We stayed for another several months because until they got their feet back on the ground, we were more or less the police force for the American Canal Zone.
I was going to ask you what you did after the initial thing was over with.
The initial thing we did air assault missions daily for the first month and a half, just chasing guys around. There'd be some intelligence about some of Norega's guys would be here or there, and you'd get in a helicopter and fly off and go through a village and look for them, go back out again. And then after that, it was actually kind of fun because we get assigned to different areas of the Canal Zone, and lived in an old schoolhouse in a place called Gibson Locks for about a month, and just did patrols. Got to know the Americans that were living in the Canal Zone. That was a lot of fun. The first part was so fun.
So when you went on one of these patrols, you just walk around and make
Yeah,
sure
we just
everything's
walk
okay?
around. Yep, just walk
Okay.
around, and
That was your job?
that was our job, just to be present. It was we rode school buses with the kids. We'd ride school buses with the kids in the morning and hang out outside the school all day, and then ride the school bus back home at night. That was actually a pretty good time.
So were you hanging, did all the guys that went through basic with you, were you in the same unit then?
We were in the same battalion, 3 or 4 different companies, so we didn't get to see a lot of each other because the companies all, and the way our unit worked, the companies would split up and do different things. But yeah, for the most part, we'd see each other around. So it was, and there's still guys that I keep in touch with
I
now
was
that I
going to
went
ask
through.
you,
Oh yeah,
if you developed any lasting
Yep.
friendships out
Yep.
of that.
Good friend actually who was in my unit from La Crosse, who lives in Southern Illinois now. Got an email from him today, wishing him happy Veterans Day, and there's several of us that still keep in touch and say hey, especially on days like today.
So your buddy talked you getting into the Army.
Yeah,
Basically, you went in at 22, which is old.
yeah,
Did you catch a lot of heat for that? Did they have a nickname for you?
yeah. The guys, because I had glasses like I do now, and as soon as I had hair then, and they shaved it off as opposed to now where it just isn't there. Gandhi was one nickname I had with one of the drill sergeants. Yeah, the drill sergeants are great for nicknames. They always have a ton of them.
And he came out corporal.
Yep, came out of corporal. And I got to be actually because of the way the units worked with this cohort, people coming in all at once, they would all hit their 3-year mark at the same time. And so there'd be this big drain of guys every 3 years. And I came in at the very start of one with older guys getting out. And I ended up being a squad leader after about 6 months because there really wasn't any more senior guys to take that role. So I moved up quick, but I really had no idea what I was doing. I sort of learned on the job.
Would you do it again? Did it help you in real life? I mean, well, the Army is real life, but it did help you in your post-Army life.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that you kind of throw, you wouldn't do it again, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think I've heard that from several. And yeah, it definitely helped me get my act together and get my feet on the ground, and gave me some real direction as far as things that you can really shows you what you're able to accomplish and do with some of the things that you go through, and especially some of the people you meet too. I mean, I've been around some tremendous leaders since I've been in, but the leaders I got to be around and the role models for some of the guys that have been in for years that I got to meet. No, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Well, it's a wonderful story.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being one of the veterans we get to talk to this afternoon. Thank you for your service from 1989.
Well, if I could too, I had a chance to have a tour from Bob with a group that I was in at the Historical Society, and had lived here since '95 and had never been there. And I'd encourage anybody that has any interest in this, or even if you don't think you do, to go get a tour from Bob at the Historical Society and check that out. It's really something.
And